I was raised and I grew up in Brantford, Connecticut, which is just north of New York City. And I was, if there was any poster child for the golden girl, it might have been me. I just didn't really do things wrong when I saw all the things my brother did wrong, and I didn't want to have to endure the punishment my brother did. So I was a good little girl. I did well in school. I went to a very good university. I did well there. Things just came easy to me, and then to top it all off, I decided to forsake the corporate ladder and make lots of money, and I would go save humanity and move to Africa. The idea was for 3 years. This was all as an unsaved person. I didn't know the Lord. I was raised in a family where God wasn't really spoken of. There wasn't really an opinion on the matter. And so I went with very selfish humanitarian motives to come to Africa and help people. And it wasn't long before I realized there's nothing in me that can change anyone. I was sent to Gaborone, and the Lord orchestrated it so that I was met by my boss in the airport with the only thing he said to me was, if I don't like you, I'll have you home in 2 weeks. And he decided the next day he didn't like me, so he tried his best to have me home in 2 weeks. And in that time, I just knew that there was a reason, there was a purpose, there was a plan. I didn't know the Lord, but I knew that there was some reason I was here, and it was bigger than what I thought. And this man was not going to send me home. So I became more and more stubborn, and I was eventually sent up just to get out of his company. I guess he didn't want me around, so he sent me up to Kasane, which is a little village on the border of Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And that was after over 3 months of a lot of loneliness. It was a hard time for me. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have a radio. I didn't have a TV. I didn't have anyone to speak to, and I was lonely. And I found myself very vulnerable. And I was sent up to this little village, and I lived in a 2-room house with no electricity, no hot water, and I loved it. I loved it because I felt like this is why I came. Now I'm really gonna make a difference. I'm gonna affect people. I'm gonna save people. I'm gonna do something that will fit the idea that I had of what it meant to do great things, I guess. So, but at the same time, I was lonely, and I found myself soon in a relationship that got way too serious, and the man fell head over heels in love with me, and I was at a place where I was just too emotionally broken down to put up my walls and say no to it. So I got myself into this relationship, and the whole town was very excited about it because he was a bit of a rough guy. He was a lovely guy, but he basically lived for the bush and he lived for the bar. And I helped, our relationship sort of transformed him a bit. So everybody was telling me I must never leave him. And I felt like my whole life became a lie. I felt like I was going off the tracks of why I came, that there was some reason why I had come. And I was soon realizing that there was nothing I could offer people. I went specifically to try to help people get better housing and to teach them how to build houses with an organization called Habitat for Humanity. But they would often ask me, why are you here? And I would say, I'm here to help you. And they said, but we don't want to be helped. So why are you here? And I could never really answer that question. I didn't really know why, actually. And that sat with me, and that was sort of a haunting question going around and around in my head, but there was nobody to help me answer that. And over time, I became anorexic. I moved in with him because he felt where I was living was unsafe. I was surrounded by shebeens, and there were always men trying to get into my property. I was living under conviction. Even though I wasn't saved, I knew I should not be living with a man. It broke me, but I didn't know what to do about that. So I felt I was just broken down in every way. And I felt like I was living a lie to everybody, and there was no one in the world I could tell the truth to, that I was desperately unhappy. And I remember I was always thinking, whenever I saw it was a tourist town, and there were lots of people coming through to look at the animals, and when I would see tourists coming in and out, I was so jealous that they could leave. I felt stuck, and I wanted to ask every one of them, are you free? Are you and your soul free? Because I am so trapped, and I don't know what freedom is, but I was yearning for a spiritual freedom, but I had no idea what that looked like and how to get that. And I gradually became more and more anorexic, and I was running in very hot weather, 40-degree weather. I was running 10Ks every day. I wasn't eating. I was passing out in places, but it was my one way of controlling something in my life. I could say it was mine. I could at least lose weight. I could at least do that. That was my thing. And I just one day fell down running in the bush. I fell down on my knees and I said, if there is a God, I'm so sorry. I've blown it. This is not what you wanted for me. And I need you to reveal yourself to me. I need to know what the truth is. It was 2 days later that my boyfriend, who was extremely possessive of my time, told me that he wanted to go to Cape Town without me. And I couldn't get over that because that just was unheard of. He never wanted a second without me. So he went, and then that first night I had a dream that there was a snake going into my ear, and I was trying to pull it out, and it was so vivid, and it was so dark and heavy. And I woke up and I looked at the clock, and it was exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got to work the next day, and the wife of the man I worked with came running out and said she was woken up at 3 o'clock and I was under attack, and she's been praying for me since 3. She's been walking around her house praying for me. And then a little Tanzanian pastor would always come and preach a gospel to me, and I never wanted anything to do with him. He came in and said, come, talk to me. So he shared the gospel with me, said he also felt he needed to pray for me today. And then somehow I thought that I was being under the radar by walking into the big 5-person prayer meeting of the expat ladies in the town that they had a prayer meeting once a week, and I thought I was blending in and maybe they didn't see me, but I just needed to go and be at this prayer meeting. So I went, and afterwards a lady told me the Lord spoke to her and said the Lord was going to use her to bring me to him, and that I was in a relationship and I needed to get out of it. So in that week that he was gone, I gave my heart to the Lord. And the day that I did, I got a phone call that my job was terminated in Botswana and I was being sent to South Africa. So God just closed all the doors for me, and he opened all the other doors that needed to be opened. And God healed me literally overnight of anorexia, literally. Because I would eat, I don't think I'd starch for a year. I was so malnutrition. I would just have a bit of lettuce and a boiled egg, and then the day after I gave my heart to the Lord, I went and I had a big piece of milk tart, and that was a full-blown miracle. I would have never conceived of doing something like that a week before. So the Lord healed me instantly of that. I was an avid runner. Even in the month of January, when it was in the 50s, I ran 10Ks a day, at least. I was absolutely obsessed over this idea of losing weight to the point of disappearing. I think I just wanted to disappear. I was never skinny enough because I was still in the mirror, and I just wanted to disappear. And the day I gave my heart to the Lord, he gave me a love not only for him, but he gave me his love for me. He gave me a love for myself that enabled me to conquer something like anorexia, which is, before it's a physical ailment, it's a mental stronghold, and he took that away supernaturally. And I love that piece of milk tart. It was at my lowest point. That's really who I was, and that's when I realized I needed the Lord. So I just praise him that he allowed me to see that, and that he saved me, and he put me in the desert to find him that way.